We're starting to see the decline of the wounded masculine. You know, all the false idols out there that have become very popular over the last decade or so. You know, the Trumps and the Tates, all of these mega billionaires that seem to believe that instead of following God or loving God, they are God. And in turn, they also either hate the feminine or feel like the feminine is not worthy of reverence or respect. Now, this is not all, but I'm talking about the wounded masculine. And, you know, and you hear a lot about toxic masculinity, but I'm talking about all of the men that are walking around in fully adult suits. Some of them are even macho. Some of them have muscles. Some of them look like they, you know, look like gods, but they're not. And it's all seems like it's all coming to crumble and down to the surface. You know, it's like, you know, as it keeps the leaking the truth that for all you people that are Trumpers, you know, no offense, no disrespect, but you found out your boy is most likely a pedophile. Tate brothers who've been accused of trafficking and rape and all these other things, and Andrew Tate was supposed to be a kickboxing champion, and he gets in the ring with another social media kid that just pummels the hell out of him. Like there was no skill in this guy whatsoever that could possibly be a champion. I took martial arts for years, you know, when I was a young kid in my 20s, and I had more skill than that guy had. And when he came out, instead of just taking the beating and just saying, hey, better man won, he cried about how you can't be an idol for everybody, and that, you know, sometimes you lose. Well, you're a product of what you created, the lies you created. And why is it important? Because, you know, the more I talk about the need to be able to emotionally regulate, it is these wounded children walking around that have mommy issues and daddy issues, which we all have. Trust me, I am not void of having my own daddy issues and my own mommy issues. The only difference is that I understand, and it took me years to understand. I spent 20 years in addiction and, you know, cocaine and alcohol and, you know, porn and all the other shit. And some of the vices I still haven't completely gotten on the other side of, in full transparency. But I have an awareness of who I am and where my wounds are, and that they're mine. I'm not a victim because my mother wasn't as loving as I wish her to be, and my dad was dismissive and not very loving and attentive. You know, I don't remember ever my parents telling me they loved me, ever. I rarely ever remember getting a hug. But guess what? Those mommy wounds and daddy wounds that I wasn't aware of, that I kept reliving over and over again, affected my relationships. No wonder I was married 3 times. My current wife for almost 25 years is my 3rd and last marriage. And I called her in order to have me heal some of these wounds as I called in the other ones. The only difference between my current wife and my previous 2 wives is that I wasn't willing to look at the wound and the triggers in me as a wounded masculine and realize that that was mine, not theirs. I created those wounds, and I called them in to poke at them. They were playing the role that I asked them to play subconsciously, and I didn't have thick enough skin to deal with it. So when you often walk around with all these men that have these toxic opinions about women, and they only think women are there for coddling them and supporting them and having sex with and looking good on their arm, but not having an opinion. The feminine is here to guide us. They're tapped into a higher level of intuition than we are. And so when you call in a partner, especially if you want to build a kingdom, you're smart if you actually listen to the wisdom of your spouse or partner, whoever has the feminine energy. As long as they're in their power and not in their own fear cycle, their channel is clear. They will guide you. But if you think that you are the end all be all and everything begins and rests on your shoulders, no wonder that you collapse under pressure. No wonder you act and pout like a child, because of the fact that you don't realize that the one thing that you hate the most, you needed to comb through the feminine womb in order to even exist in this world. That you can't separate yourself from the feminine because you wouldn't exist without it. And the fact that you yearn for the feminine energy, but you want to control it and mask it and tame it down so you feel better about yourself. I'm not here to shame you. This is one thing I'm gonna drop on you that changed my life once I understood the awareness, because awareness precedes choice. I believe, my opinion, and it's worth whatever you think it is, nothing if you think it's worth nothing, is that we are souls having a human experience. And as souls, we made soul contracts with people on this earth or this carnation that when I see you again, I'm going to need you to show up this way in order for us, so I can learn and repeat the lesson that I didn't repeat in my previous life, so I can learn the lesson and become more complete as a soul. And we have tons and tons of contracts with different souls that we will meet in different lifetimes. So if you bring it to this life, the girlfriend that broke your heart, you made a contract for her to do that, so you could create a certain belief system that either would serve you or not serve you. The mother you called in, you made a contract to come into, as a soul, into her womb and get whatever treatment that you received. Same thing with your father. And some of you get really fucking triggered by that because you want to be the victim. You don't want to believe that you created the outcome of the life that you've experienced, every fucking bit of it. And you'll have to, oh, what about I was traumatized, or I was abused, or I was this or that. I didn't call that in, I was a child or a baby. Your soul called in that lesson for you to learn from it and to bring those lessons to the world. One of the same people that I believe that doesn't understand that he's a wounded masculine is one of my old coaches, Wes Watson. Great guy. I believe he had a great message. You want to be ripped, rich, and rare. Awesome. No vices, no drinking, no drugs, no booze, no women, right, as a vice. Yet even he slipped back into his wound because he's now partying and drinking and breaking his own rules that built his entire empire. The rules that he built his whole business on, he collapsed into his wounded version of himself. He was still wounded by the anger that he shows so much in his body. But deep down inside, he's a really nice guy. And he may get triggered if I say this, and that's okay. I have nothing but respect for you, Wes. I really do. And I see you, and I see a part of you is hurting. So this message is for you. If it lands on you, you hear it. If you are not showing up as your king, and your king means that you're able to love a woman without her needing to worship you back. If you can actually show up in your nervous system that is calm and steady, and your frequency is peace and love, then she gets to show up in her radiance, in her sexuality, in her strength, in her vibrancy. No woman wants to date a boy. And what happens if you find yourself in repeated relationships that you somehow end because you're not getting your way, is because the feminine is not attracted to the little boy in you, no matter how masculine you may appear on the outside. Most of these unhealthy masculine men that men have chosen to worship, the Trumps, the Tates, the Musks, you name them, you guys know more of them than I do, probably. The point is that when you're worshiping something outside of yourself, you're giving your power away, right? That you can believe and know God, but God says that what's in you is in me. What's in me is in you. He doesn't say that I am better than you. He says you have God inside of you, right? You also have a Trump inside of you, and a Tate inside of you, and a Musk inside of you, and all these other ones. But the parts of you that you guys have in common are your woundedness. You see each other's wounds, and you mask it as greatness. Yet, if you really analyze the behavior of all of these men, really pay attention. Who do they love more than anything else? Themselves. Not God, not their families, not their children, for those who have them, themselves. And it blows me away that so many men find that to be attractive, or that's what they want to emulate themselves to be self-centered, narcissistic most of the time. And it's good to have a certain amount of narcissism in all of us. All of us have it. If you see something in someone else, that means it's also in you. So don't think I'm preaching to the choir and do not see the reflection of what I'm talking about in me as well. I'm not any farther ahead of anybody than anyone else. I just have an awareness that I'm willing to look at. Being very clear to me that if I called my mother in and I had a contract with her, then whatever pains I experienced by being raised by my mother, I asked for in that contract. And I spent 20, 30 years. My mother's been passed away 30 years. It'll be 30 years this month, her birthday month. And I still carried resentment about how I wish she'd have done better, been better, more loving, more supportive, not as manipulative. And I still cherish the times that she was protective and she was nourishing. I wish my dad was more loving. I could cry and be a little whiny bitch about it. And when I realized that I had a contract with my father, I had a contract with my mother, I had a contract with my sister and my brother, I have a contract with my wife, I have a contract with my kids, I have a soul contract with every significant person that's crossed my path. And in the unknowingness of that contract and not understanding that I had a contract, I saw broken things in them and pointed the finger and said, you're fucked up. But then realized there was 3 more pointing back at me. When I came into the realization that I am in control of my destiny, I am in control of my reality, I'm in control of the outcome. When I say I'm in control, it means that if I look at my life and I don't like what's going on around it, that means I can't blame someone else for what happened. That is me. I created that. The 5 words in which I live by: how did I create this? It takes radical responsibility for what's going on in my life, good, bad, or indifference. I'm watching the crumbling of the wounded masculine around us, and I say it's about time. The sad part is as all these men lose their false idols and they have no one to follow, blame, point the finger at, they're gonna get really confused. And like any rash or virus or what have you, it gets worse before it starts to heal. And they're gonna be looking for people to blame when they realize that their leaders and their gurus turned out to be false prophets. And if you are someone who's in relations with someone who's in their wounded masculine, just love them where they're at. Forgive them, Father. They do not know what they do, right? They don't realize that they're operating from their wounded self. And the part of healing that I find that makes it the easiest thing, if you're able to do this, I'm just give you a little bit of give a little bit of game before I end this video. If you actually can adopt the fact that you made contracts with every one of these people you're holding grievances for, you can end the contract. Emotionally, spiritually, universally, you can end the contract. And you don't need to do it in a nasty, bitter way. Fuck you, fuck me, you fucked me over, I'm letting you go. It is, thank you for following through with your promise to me and our agreement. You served me well. I understand the lesson that you were here to teach me, and I set you free with love. You can write that out on the piece of paper. You can write all the grievances you have that you've been holding on to all this time that's keeping you in this old dimension of woundedness. If you want to rise into your king, rise into your sovereignty, rise into your power, you must be willing to let go of all the shit that doesn't serve you. We're in that year, the year of the fire horse, where you get to close out the snake, finish off the shedding of old shit, and step into your power. And this is an invitation. You write them all down, and you let them go with love and with God. You burn it, ball it up, tear it up, whatever you want to do, and you forgive and let go. You know, a spirit or a soul that's been cut loose can't really come back and attach to you. But the memory of that, the residual memory of that will stick around for a while. But eventually you'll realize, oh, I should never get triggered by that. And this is what the brilliant part about it that I think is so fucking brilliant, if you actually consider it as a possibility. What if you, and you can also cut the contract with someone who's still living. I know it may feel more difficult and more challenging. What if I cut the contract from and I let go of all the things that doesn't serve me? Do I get to keep the things that do? Like all contracts, you can amend the contract how you want it to be. Right? These are soul contracts and you have control over your soul. But if you have someone who's still here on the planet and you want to let go of the things that how you're showing up, go back into the lineage of it. Because I married my wife. My triggers that I have with my wife are very similar to the triggers I have with my mother. I married my wife to remind me to bring these feelings up and over again so I could look at them and go, ooh, interesting. I created that between 0 and 7. I created a meaning of something that my mother did or my father did. And I made it mean something. And I've been repeating that meaning over and over and over again. I've been calling in people to remind me of that meaning over and over and over again. How do you stop the cycle? You complete it. So as I close out the chapter with my mother, as an example, send her with love and say, thank you, Mom, for showing up how you're showing up and giving me the lessons that I needed, that I got to learn and practice for all these decades. And I love you. You've done your job. I'm letting you go because I get to hold on to whatever love, whatever I want to remember and hold on to. And I go, what happens if by letting go of the grievances I have with my mother and the triggers I have attached to my mother, they miraculously cut the cord with the remembrance that keeps getting repeated with my wife? What if the generation, sins of the father, right, keep passing down for generation after generation? When you rewrite the contract, the soul contract, and you let go or rewrite the contract with someone who's still here, you're now setting a precedence that you no longer are willing to believe that old story and limiting belief. It's a powerful, powerful tool to set yourself free. And what does that do? Bring it full forward to wounded masculine. Those parts of you start to heal. You start to stop pouting and acting like a child when certain things come up, because you're no longer triggered or wounded by that. And you realize your power is that I created this, I can uncreate this, and you step into your king. You notice the people around you start to act differently because you are now being different. Don't make no mistake. If you think you're walking around as a tyrant and pouting and screaming and yelling at people and cussing them out and calling them names, you don't think that anybody that's slightly elevated doesn't see the wounded child in you and chuckle under their breath because they realize you don't have a clue that you're acting in your wounded child? You got another thing coming. I can see it a mile away with my clients, with people like my friends, and I can see it in myself when it shows up. The beautiful part is about being able to self-reflect and see it in yourself and go, interesting, I see you. You're not alone. I got you. I got your back. Anyway, I'm gonna stop now. I don't want to go on too much longer. This is almost 20 minutes. But anyway, I wonder if this lands at all. If this brings up any thought in you, or some curiosity or a comment or pushback or anything like that, I'd love for you to drop a comment here and share it with me. It's been a powerful realization for me. I'm 64 years old, and these concepts just landed for me as far as the power of me being able to complete the soul contracts with some of the people that I created with, or rewrite them so that it fits the life that I want, not the life that I've lived. Anyway, hope that lands. Namaste. Peace.